Hi, my name's Severo, and today I'm going to be back in experimental mode, which is one of the places I most enjoy. Anybody that's watched me long term knows I kind of like working out how things work in this game. And what I'm planning to do is check the guild system, specifically looking at how we refresh the guilds. And there's been quite a lot of speculation online about using the guild system, the donate system, and donating to 100 different guild representatives. But I was looking recently and discovered that it looks like, and I haven't tested it thoroughly yet, but it looks like you can also trade 100 different things. And so what I'm planning on doing is going to the trade terminal. Actually, I'll pull up my hauler because that's where I store all my trade goods. Going to the trade terminal and buying and selling different goods as I go around and seeing if we can refresh it that way. Now, I've got a few trade goods here, so I could also use some of these. And I'm pretty sure selling also counts, so we'll find out. We're going to find out as we go along. But the first thing we need to do is actually exhaust this guild and take a note of where we're coming back to after our 100 different things. So if we take, we've already got the multi-tool expansion slot, but if we take that bolt caster module, that'll be our main test, whether we've refreshed that. And we'll take that one, well, those, that one, and those. We'll take everything from this guild. And this is in, you can tell I've got my pad out, so I'm going to be serious here. ANLUORN. So that was our first place. Now the theory is, if we make 100 different purchases and sales, and that would probably have to be in different terminals. So for a start, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sell directly from my starship. I'm wearing my No Man's Sky t-shirt, not just wearing black. I'm going the whole 9 yards here today. So I'm going to just sell one of that. That's one thing. One of that. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, I'm not worrying about making profits or anything. So really, I'm going to go around 10 places. So I want to sell 10 more, buy or sell 10 more things. I mean, 2 more things to make up 10. And I guess if I do 2, it'll just count as one purchase. So I'm going to buy one of those and one of those. So that makes up 10 buying and selling different items in this system. I'll write a 10 next to that. Now, which economy are we in? Hang on. We're in the metal processing. So hang on, where's my... So metal processing, or otherwise known as advanced materials. I'm going to try and go to different places as well. So if we now go to the next one on that list, as it were, then if you would normally on a trade route, we'd go from advanced materials to scientific. And I can imagine if I was playing this game, I wouldn't want to completely just cheese it and just sell 100 things. I'd probably want to do it as part of a trade route. So I'd probably be going next to the correct area. So we'll go to that one. That's the next part on the trade route. We would normally buy from this one and sell at that one. So scientific. I'm also living on coffee and chocolate biscuits this morning because I had a very busy weekend. So the next thing, I might as well do each guild as well, which will probably also count. But I'm not doing it for that. I'm doing it to see if everything refreshes. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That was 5 of them, and I think it was 5 of the previous one I used. I'm not going to donate anything because that's not the point of this exercise. Right, so let's buy one of each of these 5 items. So it looks like we're in a tier 3 economy in this case. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we'll sell one of those from the previous system and one of those from the previous system. In which economy we're in? Scientific sound. Yeah, we can sell one of those. That's 8. I want to make sure I get something unique, so we haven't sold any of those. We haven't sold any of those. That's 10 things we've sold or bought. And this was in scientific. So if we're normally in scientific, we'd then go to trading. Oops. Yeah. So trading is the little stopwatch symbol. I don't want to go to that one because I might have been to it recently and it might throw things off. So let's see if there's one further down. Not seeing one. Oh, there's one. So now I bought some trade goods almost immediately before this test in at least one station. So that was too recent for comfort, that last system. So I'm going to buy all of these things. That was a full 6. And this system, R-O-H-E-N-D-O, Kabil. I'm going to sell one of everything we've got here to start with. Might be easier to do it that way before I buy anything. Just make sure we don't have any of those already that we just sold. No, we haven't. I have a feeling if you bought and sell this, buy and sell the same thing, it will just put it in the same memory slot. Yeah.
Product received. Product received.
Yep. There's 10 of those. And this was trading. Now, one of the problems with this experiment is we're never really going to be sure until we've completed it. So next we'll jump over to the other trade loop. So we want to go to, say, mining. So let's get all of these. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's pull 6 of those. Name of the system is Razukaya plus A. Sell each of those 10 things. Probably just get away with just selling each of the 10 things now, because we've got 10 things that, as long as we're not repeating ourselves, which we won't be if we go to different systems. Six, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yep. And that was in mining. So normally we would go to manufacturing next. Which is that one. I really do need to really dig into trading at some point. I've watched multiple videos on trading. I've read multiple articles on trading. I don't think any of them fully explain the system. And I only really discovered that they didn't all fully explain it when I was trying to make an infographic that put all the information on one piece of paper. And then I realized there was so much more to it than anybody had really recorded. So I wanted to kind of... well, people have recorded it, but they haven't made guides about it. 2, 3...
Product received. Product received.
Oh no, a lot of people have a good idea. Actually, why am I still sitting in chat? A lot of people have a good idea of how trading works, but there's more to it, basically. So this was 5th system, and it's Olgi Boneyard. And I believe I did all 6 of the things. This is industrial manufacturing. Just 10 goods to sell. Now, the reason I'm selling 10 goods is because when I looked at the save files, it looked like buying and selling items counted in the same queue. So there's like a list of 100 items. And there's a pointer that just goes from one to the other whenever you make a purchase or grab an item from the guild. And then it will just go round those 100 things. And it just strikes me as it's a lot quicker and easier to refresh than if we're trading. So this is just kind of a very bare bones trading test. And then maybe we'll build it into a trade system later on. So next we would go to... yeah, that one, which is the technology. Obviously we're going to run out of different trade areas because there's only 7 of them. Oh, no, 4, 5, 6, yeah. 7 of them. Let's get the name down. Neseaum. So my own note, the plus DHJ, it means it has some dihydrogen jelly in the trade terminal. This is a very dark and moody one.
Product received. Product received.
Now, obviously, I have maximized all of the guilds, and if you want to see me how I went about maximizing the guilds, then probably the best sequence of videos to watch would be... oh, I like that, look at that, sorry. The best sequence of videos would be to look at my After Titan sequence, where I was trying to maximize this, well, not this save, but the save from the Titan expedition. And the first thing I tried to do, it took a long while, but one of the things I tried to do was maximize the guilds. Oh, look at that, that's lovely. What economy are we in? We're in flourishing, so might be worth popping back here. I haven't got a fighter on this save yet. I always like chrome. I'll run out of star silk quite quickly. Look at that. That's 10 goods. And this was technology. So we want to go to power generation. That will do. Again, I'm not worried about how good the economy is, or I'm not really trading. I'm just using it as a way of choosing. Let's jot down the name of the system. So this is ABHAKYN, and it's 7th system we visited.
Product received. Product received. Product received. Product received.
Can't even remember if we fully used all of the salvage frigate modules on this save. One of the things I do notice is that you may have an idea about trading, but nobody uses it on the regular. Hence, most of the guides are pretty basic. Yeah, I kind of agree. Most of the guides just tell you the routes and how to set up at that route. They don't really go into much more detail than that. But that's not a good way of maximizing the amount of money you spend and get from a trade route.
Units received. Units received. Units received. Units received. Units received. Units received.
It's 10 goods from there. And this was power generation. So we've gone round all 7. So let's go to back to the other route, because there are 3 there and we want to go to 10 places. So we go to the other route, which is back to advanced materials, but not the one that we went to earlier. So that one will be okay. As I was saying, I'm living on chocolate biscuits right now, trying to get a bit of energy. I've had breakfast, but it didn't work.
Product received. Product received. Product received.
Now, I suspect that grabbing these is already... You might have already got to the point of reset, but the most important part is whether it resets after 10 different... trading with 10 things. So we'll find out after we've done all of them, and then we can maximize it later. Because you might not always have the option to buy everything. Sell.
Units received. Units received. Units received. Units received. Units received. Units received.
So we've run out of one of the goods. I think I've probably got those. Yes, I have. We only really need a few things. I know I haven't got any of these.
Product received.
Where I just put it. I keep so much stuff on me because of other things I do. So this was PAVISAJA, and it was back at advanced materials. So we'll go to scientific. If nothing else, going to the right section helps me because I can just look for icons when I'm going to go around it again if I test it again. So if we go there. So this is MEKIONEH. It's the 9th system we visited. Let's scientific.
Product received. Product received. Product received.
That's all 6 of those items. Yes, we've probably definitely flooded the list of 100 things by now.
Units received. Units received. Units received. Units received. Units received.
That's 90 items that have been sold, plus quite a few other items that I have tallied but not added up from the guilds. So the last one would be another trade. That one, that'll do. UMHIRDIAA 10. So let's do the 10 goods first this time. I've already written them down.
Units received. Units received. Units received. Units received. Units received. Units received.
It's only 9, so I need to buy something. Hey Alphas, good to see you. Actually, the star silk was the thing I ran out of, so buy a few of those.
Product
So that's 10 goods traded.
Product received. Product received. Product received.
Right, now theoretically, if I now go back to the very first system, if the 100 system is 100 items is working, then the guild should be refreshed. So we'll find out. It's the moment of truth. And it is. So that does seem to work. We should, theoretically, we can just flood it with trades. So the next thing would be, if you wanted to completely exploit this, then you would you'd have to go round it multiple times. But of course, we've traded 10 things when we were last here, so we'd need to update that again if we wanted to go around all 10 of the guilds and collect each of the things. So for instance, we just wanted to do that.
Product received.
And then yeah, I was in two minds as to whether to even do this, Alphas, because in a way it's a little bit it's a little bit exploitative. But on the other hand, if I build it into the way I do a trade route, then it's information for when I build that, because I can then say, look, if you built up your guild reputation, you can also do this while you're doing a trade route, and it becomes part of the game as opposed to just an exploit. So I figured it made sense to do it. So next, to be double sure of the next one, I want to make sure that I'm doing those other 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Because if you think about it, there's the guild and then 10 things, guild and then 10 things each time. So we go to the second system now. Bases, that's not bases. All right, it was Earpole. Yeah, definitely less exploitative than what it was. And you'd want to do it in a way that suited your style of play. I mean, I'm not the most exploitative type of person. I occasionally exploit a few systems I understand and have learned, but well, that's the thing, is that as if you're playing it without working these things out.
No free slots
Oops,
inserted.
can't even buy that. That's then it's kind of more natural and real, I guess. It's more the proper normal player's experience, the way that the game would be experienced by a newer player. So they're never going to be able to work this out completely from scratch without having some understanding of how the game works. So again, that's why I'm in two minds. It's like you're kind of letting the cat out of the bag as to how things work in the background.
Units received. Units received. Units received. Units received. Units received. Units received. Units received.
So which one are we in now? We're in... We are in Earpole, so we're in the second one. So I want to go to the third one. It should always be this one here, because there'll be 9 plus the one we're in currently. Yeah, it's definitely working. Every time we go here, we're getting
Product received.
the refresh. Sell.
Units received. Units received. Units received. Units received. Units received. Product received. No free slots insert inventory. Product received. Product received.
So the next one is, which we don't really need to worry about keeping looking at my list. It's always going to be that one, the 9th one on the list. The trade goods do look a bit bewildering, but it's just a simple pattern, really.
Product
there are 5 goods per economy. They're all tiered. They have the same values across those tiers in all of the economies. There's an indicative sale and buy price for a system. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I mean, what I might do is just stream how I would do a trade route at some point, which would be easier than making a full guide. And then if people still want it, we can do a full guide at some point. But you can go really deep. If I was streaming it, I could go into all of the different elements I could think of. It just wouldn't necessarily be in the most logical order for a guide. It'd take a lot more work to make a guide than it would be to actually just stream it. We're almost all the way through. Well, we're halfway through our list of 10 systems.
Product received.
It seems to have worked. Now, if you really exploited this, you would just buy the 7 smallest trade good values, enough of them to go around the loop a few times. So you'd buy like the bottom 7 and then maybe a few of the next tier up to make up 10 or more. I mean, it is costing me money because I'm not exactly making any profit on these. Most of the things aren't in green when I'm selling them, just because of the way I'm doing it. And you'd only be able to make a profit on 5 things. Yeah, I suppose you could do 20 different guilds and sell the 5 things to 5 tier 3 economies that had 5 things available to sell, which isn't all tier 3 economies. So that would take a lot of setup, though. You'd have to find 20 tier 3 economies that all had 5 trading goods in the space station. Station. So this is 3 to go. I'm interested to see what happens when we get to that last one, because I deliberately traded last. I mean first there, Argon.
Product received. Units received. Units received. Units received. Units received.
One before last.
Product received.
And now we go to the last system, and I'm imagining, because I traded first, if I go straight to the guild, it might not be available. Yeah, it would definitely help with things like salvage frigate modules if you've got the guild knowledge. So let's see if they're all available or not. They're not at the moment. And this is why I did it the other way around here. Sell. I'll do these one at a time. Just to see if collecting from the guild also counted. I think it will do. Actually, I wonder if when we arrive here, it might set it already. So it might interrogate the database. I might not be able to affect it without doing a reload. We'll see.
Units received.
Let's do a few of them. No, let's do a reload. I mean, this is kind of destruction testing. By doing it the other way around on this one, I've kind of broken the system just to see what would happen. I don't want to quit. Reload restore point. What am I doing? Nope. See what happens if I warp out and warp back in. Let's go to the previous system. You can get salvage frigate modules by going to new guilds, but you're, as you say, you've only got a certain chance, and we don't know if it's actually 1 in 3 or 1 in 5 depending on the guild. What we know is that there's an index, and so we were finding, for instance, that in some systems we were like, for instance, when we were trying to do it, it didn't seem to quite match the 1 in 3 or the 1 in 5. But you could just stay in the region. I mean, that's the way we would have done it before. And it's probably the way I would probably do it in a more vanilla save where I'm not trying to exploit anything. I don't really want to do that. I just want to jump in and out of my ship, reload, and then go back. Reload. But one of the issues with that is that I don't like flooding my my discovery list with discoveries that I'm not likely to ever use. I like to have explored everything before I start going elsewhere. So going to multiple new systems can really mess up the way I play the game, because then I have to find myself backtracking a lot.
Units received. Units received. Units received. Units received.
I'm wondering if this is still not going to work. Ooh, where am I? I'm not in the 10th system at the moment, am I? Go back to the 10th system. Which is that one. Yeah, I just been looking around, exploiting that system for everything I can, finding all the fauna and flora, finding the ships that I might like there. I find that if I'm creating, there's two ways I can play. That in some saves I will make a database of everything I find, and so I can always go back and continue to look at that database and fill out what I found. Or the other way is to just look for everything each time I jump and try not to move on too much until I've found everything that I want to from that system. So yeah, look, we still haven't managed on this one. So we can mess the system up somehow. It's not clear exactly how. It definitely worked when we stuck to the system of so if we were to go to the here, I think we were just in. That's still not redeemed. If we go to the next one on the list, which would be Earpole. That's not available. And so the difference here is that the first time around I bought everything. Second time around I've only bought the last item. So maybe that's just not flooded the list enough. Interesting to know. How far around we'd have to go.
Units received. Units received. Units received. Units received.
Or maybe, I I have a feeling I know what's going on here. We are messing around with things that we've bought and sold already in the list that we have. So you'd not only would you need to go around the whole thing, second time around you'd have to be careful of making sure that list was completely flooded again, which we did. And then the third time around, which we started to mess up by going straight to the guild. Maybe I'd have to look at the list, I think. I'd have to experiment with what the list actually says. Because I think one of the things is that we may have already traded certain things that we're trading here. I just sold all of those. It may be existent in our list because we didn't completely flood it. So what I'm trying to get at there is, imagine we went to system that our second system on the list was EAPOLE, EAPOLE. Imagine if we went there and made 10 trades, but our list of 100 trades still had some of EAPOLE's trades in it, then it would probably update those trades that are already in the list rather than adding a new entry and flooding the list with new entries. Let's have a look at the list a second. This is why we do the experiment, to see if it works and under what tolerances. Sorry, I'm just trying to find it in the list. I can't remember what it's called yet. I'll know it when I see it. Silence while I look something up. Okay, here we are. I don't know if this will display well on the screen, but let's see. Let's try. Probably be in my record. And no, that's not the right window. And window capture. And this is the JSON editor. And it's called okay. It's probably a bit small. I wonder if I can get a bit bigger. So this is the list we're looking at. So in this list of on this side, we can see that there are 100 items. There's 99 and there's 0. And there's an index which says 71. And 71 means that the last thing we traded was here, which was a trading commodity 2, and it was at this address. And interestingly, there's no supply and demand information. And as you can see, we're doing selling and buying and selling trading items. And that is from a guild envoy. So it's in the same list. And so the idea is that we keep pushing that pointer, this one that says 71, we keep pushing it down the list. So it's currently pointing at this one, which was a trading commodity. And we want to push it to this one and then all the way down and through and to come back again and actually just completely refresh everything in this list. Now, by messing it up deliberately a little bit earlier on by going to the trade terminal and only buying 10 things, I mean, not buying the 10 things first, but well, buying the same, whichever way around I messed it up. And what I may have done was I may have allowed the system to look through these 100 things and just add extra information to one of these things without pushing that counter on. So currently we're on 71. What I'm going to try and do now is just see if I go to a new system and buy something, whether it pushes it to 72 still. Because it may not. So we go to one of the systems we've already been to. Is that one of the ones I've already been to? Yes. So actually, I just want to trade. You're not seeing this, so let's go back to that for a second. I'm going to trade something in this new system I just jumped to, which is on our list, but yeah, you just don't do that. you only edit the JSON when you know what you're doing, and we're not editing it here anyway. We're just looking at the list, so it's relatively safe to just look in the save editor and find out what's going on. So I'm going to go back and look and tell you if it's gone. I don't need to show it necessarily. Come out of there. Save data file has been changed externally. Would you like to reload? Yes, I would. Edit raw JSON. Find it again now. One of the problems I have with the way the save editor works is you have to find things in that list every single time. And the list is really long, and if you can't remember exactly where it is on the list, it can take a little while to find again. And I'm not familiar with this one. It's not one I go to very often because I've only just worked it out how it works. I've never tried Nom Nom, no. And mainly because I just don't really need to try a different one or get my head around a different way of doing it. You say it won't let you overwrite when there's a mistake, but I have messed up my JSON more than once by if you change things in the wrong order, it can really confuse things, and there are certain ways you can allow it will allow you to make changes that don't make sense. And if you really either do or don't know what you're doing. So, for instance, you could create an entry that wasn't really a sensible entry, and then that could throw the entire list out. Where are we? I've forgotten the name of it now. So yeah, again, I go into silence while I look for the thing. Where are we? There we are. Yeah, still on 71. So what's happened is I've made one trade and it's probably updated something else in my list that's already there. So you do have to bear in mind that the list is exactly 100 long. And if something that you're trading is already in that list, then you're not putting a new entry in. You're not moving that counter. I'll maybe try and explain that more simply. If you imagine that the list was 5 items long, and if you bought 5 items, then you would be back at the top again. But if you bought the same item that you'd already bought within that 5, it wouldn't add a new entry. It would just update one of the existing entries, and so you wouldn't push it on to the beginning of the list again. So you would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you'd buy something you'd already bought, and it wouldn't change anything. You'd still be on 5. And you want to push it on to 6 so that you can erase that first slot. So you'd need to buy something different. And what I did was find a way by going into the trade system, only picking up things I'd already grabbed from the guild, only clearing the 10 things each time. I've not pushed the counter on as much. That is another option, Gravnort. You could just go into the save editor and delete all 100 items. But that's... I wouldn't advocate messing around with the save editor, put it that way. So in other words, in order to definitely renew this, we would want to go to 10 systems that we hadn't already visited. And we only visited 10 systems. So we probably have about 140 or 50 items, but we don't have enough to completely refresh it if we go round the list again, because we'd be going to the same 10 systems and buying things that we'd already bought and sold from those 10 systems. So we're not refreshing that list as such. So if you want to go round more than once, then you really need to have a longer list of things just to make sure you're clearing the items out. Exactly how many, I'm not 100% sure. Let's go to a brand new system. So I've not been to that one, for instance. If I make 10 trades there, then I would have theoretically have removed... I would have erased things from our first system we went to. So... One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now if we go back to... I'm not 100% sure because I haven't been... When I went round the second time, I didn't make a careful list of what I'd been buying and selling, because I'd already done that in the first loop round. So I'm not 100% sure if this will work, but we'll see. It has. So basically we went to 11 systems just to be sure that we flushed out the cache of all 100 items. So that did work. Because on that 10th one, if we're then trading those goods that they're already in our list of 10 systems we visited, making up 100 items. Now, obviously, when we're buying one of these things, or as we did the first loop round, bought everything, then we're also adding these to the list as well. So the list was a lot longer on that first list round. But on the second time around, we kept it really lean. So we needed to make sure we got to 100 and started again. So that's kind of how it works, it seems. So you seem to have demonstrated that it does work. So to completely just refresh our memory, the way it's working, when you go to a guild and you buy an item, it adds that item to a list of 100 items. So when we buy that, it will say, put it in a starship. If we buy that, it says, okay, this player has bought a multi-tool expansion slot from this specific system from the guild representative, and it adds it into our list of 100 things. And also, you can add to that list of 100 things by buying and selling items at a trade station. So if we were to buy and sell 10 single things from the ordinary buying and selling list. Now, I'm not sure which other commodities. Not all commodities will work. So this is why I'm sticking specifically to trade goods, because most other goods aren't tradable. They don't have an up and down when you buy them. The game doesn't try and keep track of whether you've sold thousands of ferrite dust as to what price ferrite dust is, but it does for things like nanotube crates, etc. And this list is for things that it's trying to keep track of. So we've bought our item from the guild, and then we would trade 10 things from here, but buying and selling 10 different things. You could do one of each. And then you could do exactly the same in 10 other systems, and you would have a list of 110 things, theoretically. So you'd have, the list would include the 10 things you got from the guilds and the 10 trading items you did in each of the trade stations. And then if you then go to the next guild, as long as you're always going to the guild first, collecting the item you want, going to the terminal, trading 10 things, and then going to the next guild through the teleporter, and you keep that list going, you've always got over 100 things in your list, and you'll always get a refresh when you get there. But if you saw me do, I deliberately messed that up by trading first rather than last, then it will just say, oh, we've already got these things in the list at this space, this system, and it will just update those in the existing list. So you have to bear in mind how big your list is and what the list actually is representing. So the list is representing specific items traded at specific trade stations. But if you were then to buy another one from that trade station, it wouldn't add it to the list. It would just update the existing entry in the list. So you need 100 individual entries. Any questions? Because I'm not sure if that makes 100% sense to everybody. That's a good point, Gravnor. If you were going to actually use the save editor to exploit the guilds, you might as well just give yourself the thing you want in the first place. So if I was after a load of cargo bulkheads, which is one of the things you can get from the guilds, if I was going to use the save editor, I'd just give myself a load of cargo bulkheads, or I would increase the actual freighter inventory, the cargo inventory. I wouldn't worry about messing around with the actual guilds and the guild list. And that would be a lot easier. So what we're trying to work out here isn't so much how to exploit the system as how the system works and how you might build it into a method of play. So one way of building this into a method of play would be to actually build a trade route with at least say 15 different places, and as you're going around that trade route, always make sure you're buying and selling enough items to flood your list so that when you next go round that trade route, the guilds will still be refreshed. It would kind of be a strategy for how to exploit the guilds rather than a let's just do what I did, which is just buy and sell cheap items until it updates. What next? I'll kind of work that out. Unless anybody's got any questions, and Gravnot seems happy, he understands it, so that's at least a victory that somebody understands it. Maybe we'll have a quick look at the very basics of trading while we're looking at the trade routes and while we've got a load of items in here for our trade route. Because we haven't got an awful lot of stuff here now, but so the very, very basics of trade goods is that there are 7 different economies. You've got advanced materials, scientific and trading is one route. And then you've got mining, manufacturing, technology and power is the other route. So in this system, I don't think we're in a high economy here. We can buy 4 different things in the space station. And we're in a medium supply system. So that's the maximum you can buy, I believe. And have a quick consult of my list. Well, actually, half of the 2-star economies you could also have 4. So that you have to have a very good economy to have 4 different things. And we're in a medium supply, 1 to 4. Yeah, that is right. So you'd have to have a medium supply to have 4 different things. But there are 5 different things. So if we go to in our list, a high economy system. So that's flourishing. So that'll do. Now, in a high economy system, we should have, but won't always have, 5 goods. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then on a planet, again, we should have, but won't necessarily have 5 goods. We'll find out. We'll go to planet and we'll get a trade station. I should make sure that is a planet that has a trade station. It's desolate, so it might not have. I can't remember if they actually have them. I don't think they do. Well, you can always see if you're teleporting between systems, then you can always see the icon. But you could number them. So you could say trade route 1, number 3, if you didn't want to memorize your trade route. But my method of using a trade route isn't to just simply go round in a circle, because that doesn't really maximize your profits. We'll go into that in a bit. First things first, we'll find a I've got a lot of items sell, but I don't know how to identify which items sell for a better price in which system. Already installed the economics mod on my ship, but I can't figure it out. I don't know how the economics mod works, so I can't help you with that. but we're kind of getting there as to how that works. So we'll be covering that in a short while. And then if you have questions after that, I don't mind answering them. So first things first, jump back in my ship. Go to... We now have two choices. We want to locate a trade outpost. No, it wasn't bad English. I understood what you're asking. It's just... Oh, sorry, it isn't a mod. Sorry. You mean you have got the module, you've got the technology, you've got the economy scanner in your ship, I presume. Yeah. So at a trade station, remember we're on a planet now and not in the space station, you will see potentially a different list. In this case, we have exactly the same list. We have 5 items. You might see 4 items, because you can get different numbers of goods in the economy, in the space station, and on planets. So first things first, well, not first things, first thing is what we just got covered, that there are different economies on the space station and the planet. The next thing that's worth noting is that the actual prices of items will be different at the space station to a planet. And so, for instance, the instability injector here is 11077. We'll check that in the we'll check that when we go up to the top and go to the space station again. But the other thing I'm going to do while I'm here is I'm going to look for another trade station, and we should see a different price. As long as it hasn't identified the same trade station. It hasn't. So instability ejected, see, that's a different price to what we saw before. Only slightly. I mean, we're not making huge profits and loss differences, but that one's 11,031, and the previous trade station was 11,077. So we're getting a slightly cheaper price here. So, and it can make a big difference if you really, really want to maximize a trade route as to which place you go to. But the other thing is, if I was to buy all of them from here now, it would exhaust the other trade terminal as well that was also on the planet, because I bought all of the goods from this planet. The trade stations will give us the prices, but it doesn't give us the number of goods. I could demonstrate that by buying them all, if I've got the space. Now if we go to another trade post, and theoretically there will only be a couple. It might have refreshed a couple by the time we get there. See, we've got none available now. So even though we bought from 2 different trade terminals and the price would have been different, the actual goods available are the same number of goods. So we've bought all of them, and we'd have to wait for a while for that to actually update. Does selling trade goods to NPCs at trade posts affect the economy's price? Yes. Trading posts are the same. You do. I've not seen this. I've not seen the same numbers of goods sometimes, and but that's a very tentative thing. I've been to trade posts. Don't know if I've got the. Let's see if I've got the. Trouble is, I've done it in the wrong order to really test that. The one thing I have found, at least tentatively, is that I've been to a trade post and bought some goods, and then come to a trade. I've been to a minor. What am I trying to say? I've been to a minor settlement, bought all of the goods from a minor settlement, gone to a trade post, and there seem to be a few more goods. And now I'm not sure if it just refreshed strangely, or whether there just are more available, but it just seemed to be a subset on that day, and I haven't really looked into that deeply since, because it wouldn't be a great strategy to go to trade posts anyway. I've been to minor settlements anyway, I don't think. Pilots, sorry. Now this is where I would like to do a deeper dive into pilot, because everybody always says, oh well, if you go to the pilots, then it doesn't mess up the economy. But what I think they're not fully grasping is that there are different economies in a system. And if you really want to maximize your economy, you shouldn't even be in the trade station in the first place. So are you selling to this economy? I don't think I've got the right goods for this economy though. I mean, we could maybe test that. I've never actually got around to testing it, but we could test it. No, I haven't got the right things to... Oh, I wasn't checking on my ship, was I? Oh, of course I pulled up my other starship. That's why I've got nothing in there. I want to go to this starship with all my trade goods in it, and then try and sell to this one and see if we've got anything that belongs in this trade economy. Yes, we do. Okay, so if we sell all of that, actually we'll sell half of... What shall we do? What shall we actually do? I'm going to build a base, and we'll test that first thing first, because if we do it in the wrong order, we won't be able to test that. So getting back to knowing which items to sell where. Each good will have something in the description. There can be a little bit. I think some of them might be written incorrectly. Let's name this as crate. I'm reaching over for my keyboard, which is underneath. It's difficult to describe my setup, but I have to kind of get my hands in underneath to type, which is why it always looks like I'm really struggling to type. Let's make a teleporter, biofuel reactor. Oops.
Technology recharge.
Right, let's go back to the space station first. The current system, there we are. Yeah, so everybody often always says, sell your items to the traders that come in. And I'm not 100% convinced that's the best option. Of course, we need a trader to come in, but it looks like there's one coming. It's not the right time of day for me to be eating the main meal. Right. So let's take the nanotube crates as an example. He's offering $1,725. I just want to compare, just make sure all the traders are the same. So let's get over to this guy. $1,725. So that's consistent across traders. They're not the same ship. And the terminal looks like the same. 1,725. Actually, I also want to know what the price is down the bottom before we do anything else. So, your bases. Before we start making any sales, because everything we sell is going to affect an economy some way or the other, and we want to see that one question about whether or not selling to traders affects either economy, because they are separate. Can you see that worm? Oh, there it is. Where's my ship? Has it not landed on the... That's odd. Oh, of course it hasn't, because I haven't Haven't brought it in. Want to sell from my starship, I need to call it into one of these. Interesting, there's a traveller here. So nanotube crates, they're clearly worth more here. We can get 2,092 here, so they're worth a lot more here. So it'd be worth selling them at the trade station, which is always the way generally. So what I want to know is if either one of those gets affected by selling it to the traders in the space station. Actually, I thought of one other thing I can check before we do this. Theoretically, our freighter uses the planetary economy. We'll double check what the price is. In our freighter before we make any sales of that good, because it will start as soon as we sell something, it will knock the price somewhere, even if only with the traders, I think. So here price is 2,083, so slightly less than we saw at that planetary base, but it's within the same kind of ballpark. So it's probably, we could probably find a trade post on the planet that would have a similar price to this. And if we sold them here, if we bought, for instance, all of the Star Silk here, there would be none left on the planets, but there would be some left in the space stations, because this is the planetary side of the economy. Not Star Silk, one of these. If we bought one of these, so if we bought all of the neutron microscopes, as you saw earlier, we bought all of the instability injectors on the planet. Now there are none available on our freighter because it's the same economy. But if I now go straight back to the space station, the instability injectors will be there. Dialogue, I hope, because I still haven't got all of them. Right. See, there's some instability injectors here, but there weren't any on the planet, so there weren't any on my freighter. So there's two different economies, and also there can be different numbers of goods in the economy, in the two different economies. So the first test is this commonly cited received wisdom that if we sell to the traders, which I've always felt was a bit of an exploit, then it won't affect anything. So if we go for the nanotube crates that we were looking at the prices for and sell all 46, first let's check to see if the other traders are affected. And we can't now because we just sold them all. Arr! I might need to go and quickly buy one from somewhere. Don't think I've got any in this inventory. So where do we buy nanotube traits from? Which economy is it? It's in the advanced materials. So space stations, we're looking for the advanced materials, which is a DNA strand, so that one will do. Actually, the previous system will do. Nanotube crates.
Free slot
Ah.
in suit inventory.
Sometimes the previous system just shows like that, I think. It's odd. Just double checking none of the others say previous system. We'll go back to the previous system was also a base. So that was something's got messed up in the system list. It's supposed to list which one's the previous system, and sometimes it doesn't seem to properly. Yeah, it was that one. So if we now wait for another trader, actually, while we're waiting for a trader, we'll just double check if the nanotube crate has changed price at all in the space station. $1,725. So that's exactly the same as it was previously. So that hasn't been affected. $1,725. So that hasn't been affected. And then go to the space station. No, not space station. My base that I built. See if that price has been affected. I need to pull it in, sorry. Ah, you've landed there just as I wanted to. Oh, it pulled it in there instead. That's so this was still 2092. So yes, that still does work. That still is a thing. I never use it, but you can sell to the traders in the space station and not change the prices of goods. I don't like using it because I feel like it's kind of almost like by mistake that happens. feel like it's almost a bug that it doesn't change things. But yes, you can exploit that system if you want to. So right, so where were we? The original question that Philippe was asking was, how do I know where to sell something? So if we look at this, it says instability injector, trade goods, open brackets, scientific. And the way the trade routes work, scientific is one of three in a loop: scientific, trading, and advanced materials. So you go from scientific, you would sell scientific goods to the trading economy, and from the trading economy you would buy those goods and sell to the advanced materials economy, and the advanced materials you'd buy those goods and sell to the scientific. And so this specific thing, a jumbled box of instability injectors, is something you buy from scientific, so you would sell to trading. And so it says at the top of that list, trade goods scientific, and then later on in the description it has that little purple word trading, and that tells you where you need to go to. Now I have found there's a couple of those seem to be wrong, that purple list, but in general that's the economy you're looking for. You're looking for the trading economy in order to sell the instability ejectors. So if we look at a different one, the optical solvent, that says it's a construction goods. Now construction is part of the manufacturing loop. I don't know why there are so many different names these days. I think construction is now the standard term. Construction manufacturing goes to technology, and that's why it says scientific components. Scientific components are a type of technology. And you go from manufacturing to technology, technology to power generation to mining, mining to manufacturing. So again, it's a four-way loop in this case. So you have a three loop for advanced materials, scientific and trading, and a four loop for mining, manufacturing, technology and power. And this is part of the four loop. We would take these goods to the scientific components area, i.e. technology. And so it's just a matter of knowing which of each of the loops you're using. I've actually made my own handy kind of infographic, which I've kind of shown to the camera before. I don't think you're going to be able to see it because I think it's going to treat it as background. You can't quite see that. I might switch the camera in a minute. I don't think I've got this on my computer. I've only got it on my other computer, so I can't show it to you on a visual. There should be a list online. Let's have a look at the Wikipedia, the wiki, the No Man's Sky wiki. So these are the trade goods for construction, for instance. It's not got the picture I wanted, though. These are all the trade goods. What we want is the trade route. Is there a wiki entry for trade routes? Yes, there is. So here's a picture. These can slightly be out of date. You have to take some of these with a pinch of salt. Let's take myself off of the screen. Can remember how to. That one, okay. But but as it says, its energy supply, fuel generation, high voltage or power generation goes to mining, minerals, prospecting, oil, or rather, and it tells you the colors that you will find in the galaxy map. And then the other route, so from blue to green to purple. You will find these online, these kinds of diagrams online, which will, again, they'll focus on the color. This one at least has the icon, so you can look for it either in the galaxy map or in your space station list. And these icons will actually help with your search. And that's the other one. That's the 4 one. And as you can see, it tells you the type of name you will find, the kind of things you will buy in each one, and where you sell it to. So anything you bought on this list, you'd sell to this one. Anything you bought on this list, you'd sell to this one, etc. So you can find this stuff on the Trade Route Wiki, and it will tell you different infographics from different people will tell you where to go. So like this one has got a loop for the 4 on the outside and the 3 on the inside. So you go from scientific to trading to advanced, you go from power to mining to manufacturing to technology. And then it tells you here. So that the information is readily available online. And so the way you would look for it, as I showed before, is to look in the actual details of the product. And it will usually tell you which type of economy to go to, and that type of economy will not always have the same wording. When for instance, this one, I don't really feel that scientific components is necessarily telling you exactly where it goes, but as long as you consult one of those lists, you can't really go wrong. Yeah, the infographics do make it a lot easier. My infographic that I use is much more complicated than that because, as I said, there's a lot more to trading than just going from one place to another place to another place and back again. If you really want to maximize your profits, then you want to find trade terminals on planets that have got the best prices. You want to buy from both the space station and the trade post. And the other thing that's not really mentioned very often, if we go into space, when we've got the trade details, you can see under here it says Economy Scientific. It has a sell price and a buy price underneath the type of system, and those numbers are not governed by the economy level. So you can see this is a scientific 3-star, so it's the highest economy. You would imagine that that would have, say, the best buying and selling prices maybe, or you might think you'd get the best buying prices but worse selling prices, but none of that is actually governed by the economy type at all. The only thing that for instance, if we go to this 2, this could end up having a higher sell. So when you're buying your goods, you want the best buying price, and you would often want to go to the 3-star economies to get all of the goods, because if you remember, I said if you go to 3-star economy, you most often find 4 or 5 lists of goods. So if you want to buy all of the expensive goods, you'd go to the high economy systems. But the place you sell to, you really want to sell to the one with the highest number for selling, which can be up to 80. So this would be 41.7 out of 80. And the place we are at the moment is 60.1 out of 80. So that's not the best place to go to sell. we might find somewhere much better if we look around. So if we're in the economy filter and we're looking for scientific, which is what color is scientific again? Blue, dark blue. So that's 77.1. So that's a better place to sell to. And you might, even though that's a one-tier economy, you might keep that in your list and sell all of your goods to there. It will buy all 5 of the trade goods and it will buy it at the best price or a better price. And you might find one that's 79 or something. If we look around for a little bit longer. 40, that's awful. 48.5. 57.8. 44.5. 77.2, so that's pretty good. $68.3, 70. And I'm drifting off for blue, aren't I? Yeah. 64, 56. So you can see there's a big variety, and it doesn't seem to have anything to do with stars. i.e. this number of stars the economy has. 45. See, this mercantile economy has a sell of 44.7, which, as we've now discovered, is not that good, but it's a 3-star economy. So you can buy all of your goods there, but you can't necessarily, you can buy the highest quality goods there, but you can't necessarily sell them for the best price there. Here's the big question. How long does it take for the economy to recover back to its original buy-sell price? Well, what were we just looking at in the in our testing the guilds? We were testing a list of 100 items. I'm pretty sure that you can ignore that if you're selling enough things across 100 different items. So there is a system that it will slowly change the economy, but it's specific to the place you're buying and selling, and the list is only 100 long. So maybe we'll test that another day, but I'm pretty sure you can exploit that system by having a big enough trade route that encompasses enough systems that by the time you get round to the beginning again, 100 items have been taken out of that list, and then you don't have to worry about the price. I haven't tested it, but it's a working theory that from basing it from what we did with the guilds would probably work. And so also I would say the way to get started with a trade route is start off just in space stations and just find goods buying and selling spots. So find the best price that they'll buy for, and also lots of 3-star economies where you can buy stuff from, and just start off on each of those different numbers and look around. So find a number of 3 stars for advanced materials, a number of 3 stars for scientific, a number of 3 stars for trading, and just start by going around the space stations. But I would then advocate the next step would be trading in both the space station and on a planet, because you're using 2 different economies. So you can buy more goods because you can buy all the goods in the space station and then buy all the goods on the planet. And we can demonstrate that by using our freighter. Oops. Well, I could go through that, but obviously I can't. So if I was arriving here and wanting to buy all the goods I could possibly here, I would buy all of these goods, and we'll demonstrate by buying the instability injector.
No free slots in suit inventory. Product received.
And let's buy those top two. So we bought all the instability injectors and all the neutron microscopes. We've already bought some injectors on the planet. If we go to my freighter, which is also in this system, I should still be able to buy the other one. And this would be the equivalent of going to the neutron microscope. This would be the equivalent of going to the planet. In fact, you might find better prices on the planet than you do in the freighter, but you might find it better in the freighter. It's just the equivalent of another trading post. So the second thing I would do as I'm building up my trading route would be start off in the space stations, but then as I'm getting more serious, I'd go to the space station, buy my stuff, come to my freighter and buy all the stuff there, and then sell all the stuff from the previous system here on my freighter. Hiya, Restu. And then if you're going to get really serious about trade routes and try and maximize profits, then going to various trading posts on the planet, finding the best buying prices on planet. And then when you find your best one in the galaxy map, you find your best selling place. Again, trying to find your best trading post on one of the planets in that system. Placing down, just like we've done here, to be honest. So what we did here was we placed a base. Mark your bases. We place a base at the trade post. You could go to the space station and a trade post in each system, thereby buying all of the goods available in the system, and then come to the terminus and go to the next part of your loop and do it that way. So I would recommend, if you really wanted to fully exploit it, you want to have 2 or 3 places where you're buying, and then always sell to the same place that's got the best, which isn't necessarily the highest economy. So you're finding 2 or 3 3-star economies. From all 3 of them, you're buying in the space station and at the trading posts. And then you're selling all of those goods in the next part in a trading post. So you'd probably need to set up a few terminals. But I've only been that serious about trading a couple of times. One of them was when I was first learning it, and the other time was when I was doing a permadeath save, which was very much focused on trading and was only ever trying to maximize the profits. Casual trading early on in this save is actually quite a good way. For instance, let's imagine this was my first ever system. If before I leave this system I come to a trading post and I buy some goods and then choose the next system I travel to based on the trade route, then early on when you haven't got much money, you just buy, you think, right, I'm going to warp to a new system. Where do I go? Well, you'd come here, buy the goods for the next system, and then only go to the next system in the loop. But obviously you'd need to have your technology installed. So as soon as you've got an economy scanner, you can start basing where you go to next based on what system we're in currently. So we are currently in an experimental, which is scientific, and we'd want to go to trading next. So we would buy all of our goods here. And so we wouldn't have an awful lot of money in an early stage of a save. So we'd probably just come to a trading post. Wouldn't worry about the space station so much. We'd buy as much as we could afford. So let's say we can only afford that much. We've only got a few tens of thousands of units at this stage. And we'd go into the galaxy map. And then choose the next place we jump to. And the next place we're going to explore based on the economy. So I'm now going to go to a trading economy. So we'd look for green. And we'd base the next place we came to entirely on the trade route. That's the wrong green. I mean conflict, economy. That's better. You will find some that aren't inhabited. So we might go there. And then we would explore this system. But the first thing we would do is sell. In fact, we could just immediately go into our trade. Immediately find a trade outpost. Should mark one on a planet, usually the second planet away. And because we've spent all of our money on the trade goods to go from one system to another, then we immediately come here, sell our goods. I'll sell whatever sells here, so let's sell everything that comes from this economy. I have something in my ecstasy as well. I did. They were the ones I bought, neutron microscopes. So yeah, so that would be a strategy in very, very early play. Choose where you go based on the economy and use all of your money before you make your warp, and then immediately sell when you get there so you've got your money back and a bit more. And then carry on exploring that system, doing whatever you want to do in that system. And then when you want to move on, come back to a trading post, buy as much as you can in that trading post, go to your next system, sell, and then start exploring there, which is a really good way to start off. I always find if I'm doing a permadev save, then that's a good way of starting to build up some cash reserves really early on. might actually work for abandoned mode. I can sell to an NPC at a base at a crashed ship or a landing pad. And sell things that would show up on the landing pad. I don't understand. Are you saying that in abandoned mode you do get some NPCs at crashed ships? I'm a bit confused by that. I thought the whole... I haven't played abandoned mode yet. But I thought the whole point was there weren't any NPCs. Are there some that crop up anyway? Anyway, so that was a brief exploration of trading, but the main point of the exercise was to really delve into that guild refresh. So if anybody's joined at this stage and wants to know what we were up to, then obviously start from the beginning. What we were doing was we were trying to work out a quick and easy way to refresh the guilds. So we bought from a guild the items that we wanted, and then we went round a trade route and sold a load of items and bought a few things as well, in order to then refresh the guild as quickly as possible. And we demonstrated that it would take about 100 different purchases, but it could be trade goods, not just things from the guilds. And I think, having also explored the basics of trade routes, I think I've done everything I really want to do today, so I may just end off there. It's a nice planet, this one, even though it's a little bit grey. It's obviously a swamp planet, but got a nice green. Only an NPC if you build the landing pad at a crash site. Oh, I see. So it's a little bit like what people will sometimes do in expeditions. Yeah, I know that you can get an NPC if you build a landing pad at a crash. Yeah, okay, that's a bit weird though, isn't it? That you can do that in abandoned mode. So anyway, so I'm gonna end off there. Thank you for watching. I've been Pharaoh. Travel well.